Welcome to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. Problem solvers have problems too. So here at Behind the Podium, I, Jared Cohen, and my co-host Alexander Ellis discuss the struggles, philosophies, demands, and practices of the coach, or said more broadly, health and wellness practitioner. To provide quality coaching is to enhance someone's life in an everlasting and unfolding way. This is not easy and requires a lot of due diligence and self-mastery on the part of the coach to be able to perform. So without further ado, join us as we dig deeper into the depths of the coach's mind.
Behind the Podium, discussing the practices, philosophies, and struggles of the coach and or healthcare practitioner or anyone in a role to provide service or benefit to another individual. Super pumped here. We have our second guest,
Woo-hoo!
coaching extraordinaire Elizabeth Wipff, and we're gonna get into some more coaching and actually this time talk a little bit about the diversity of one's coaching journey. As opposed to our previous guest that was on the younger side of the spectrum, like Alex and myself.
The babes.
Not in terms necessarily of age, but in terms of maturity of
I know, way to just stick your foot in your mouth there, Jared.
Immaturity of resume, rather, I think is what we'll go with.
Well, I'm super excited to have you, Elizabeth, on the podcast because our work together has been super impactful for my coaching and my professional development with your program on developing your why and developing my why. And I feel like Jared and I have hinted at it a little bit over, the episodes, but understanding the reason behind why you do things, then the what you actually do is almost not irrelevant, but you can better gauge what you're doing because you understand why you're doing it. So for those of you out there who feel like you're doing a lot of what and it's not very fulfilling, understanding your why can really help weed out the noise. So without further ado, Miss Elizabeth, would you like to give us a little bit of background about who you are?
Yes, some age-old wisdom.
God, Jared,
for snappers.
Yeah, throw us out some of that.
And dude, I just had a birthday, so that really.
No, we'll just talk about how much you can lift a million times more than we do.
That's right.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that later. Yeah. So, you want my CV?
Yeah, go for it.
I have to be careful the way I say this so that people sort of understand the scope. I've been a movement professional for 17 years. I've been moving in the world for a lot more than that. And I started walking at 7 months. So movement is a part of how I am in the world. And so it was inevitable that I would eventually become a movement teacher. I live in New York. I came to New York to be a performer. I have a degree in musical theater.
So you're excellent at karaoke and singing.
I'm excellent at singing. Yeah, I love show tunes. In fact, I was at the gym today singing some show tunes.
Yeah.
So I started as a yoga teacher and more recently have been a CrossFit coach and a personal development coach and a yoga tune-up teacher, trainer. So I've worn a lot of hats in my career. I will say, actually, I am an imminently retired CrossFit coach. I think I may have taught my last CrossFit class as of 2 weeks ago. So I'm kind of adding another slash to my offerings, yet another evolution. That will have something to do with teaching people movement and also helping fitness professionals, as you mentioned, figure out sort of the deeper motivation of for them of their career path, of their life path, of their own personal practice path. Because I think this is a really freaking hard business. And I think a lot of us kind of walk into it blindly thinking that we're going to, I don't know, save the world, save people, have a great time. When I started teaching yoga, it was like, I want to be a yoga teacher because I want to do a lot of yoga.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest load of horseshit ever, because once you teach a full schedule of classes,
You never
the
do it.
last thing you want to do is get on your yoga mat. So, I've had to manage myself through that. And so I want to get really kind of concise about this. Teaching people to find their why was something that came out of my own work on myself. And in some part came out of a conversation I had with Jill Miller. All of us are yoga tune-up teachers and sort of know the work ethic of the yoga tune-up teacher, which is bust your ass,
Hustle hard.
hustle hard, and no one is a better example of that than Jill. And Jill really works hard, and I'm in awe of that ability to just keep working and keep working. And so in conversation with her a couple years ago, I was sort of feeling like something wasn't right with myself, and I needed to figure out some stuff. And I just said, what is it that keeps you working so hard? Where do you find your energy? And she said, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. And I went, oh shit, what's my mission? What's my mission? And so I started really earnestly looking at my mission as it related to being a movement teacher, having come from really straight ahead yoga world. And, I grew up in Northern California. Self-helpy stuff has always been in my wheelhouse. I'm very comfortable with it. But at that point, I was over 40 and I was ready to kind of find the next frontier. And so I very earnestly started to look at the way I was pursuing my career and what I loved about it, what I didn't love about it, what was hard but worthwhile, and what was a waste of my time. I reconnected with Simon Sinek's TED Talk, where he talks about It Starts With Why, which is his book.
Yeah, and we'll share the link for that in the show notes.
Yeah. So the premise of that is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And so, Jared, for you, I don't know if it was you or Alex was saying, I sort of wear lots of hats and I have a diverse background. Some of what I was going through was like, how do I tie all of these disparate interests together, and what's the common theme?
Yeah.
And so that was like a catalyst for me to start doing some discovery, and some exercises he has on his website that I had actually done with a coach many years ago, a personal coach many years ago, and kind of resurrected some of those exercises and started to go, okay, what's the common denominator here? Why do clients who, on paper look like amazing clients make me crazy? Yeah. And why do people who seem sort of mundane to the outsider really light me up? And so this idea of going even below the mission and starting to discover what my operating system was. Mm. And I think that's the distinction about the why for me, is that I'm not choosing it. It's already chosen me. Mm-hmm. And everything you do, as Alex said, is an expression of that. And so when you choose your next step, whether it's to become a chef or a yoga teacher or an accountant, if you do it from that point of view of understanding your operating system, it becomes a choice about the way you step forward in the world. And you're not doomed. You're not sentenced to living your life a certain way. And so I started to peel back and kind of go, okay, what is it? Why is this really cool old lady who has a great life story? Husband was a Holocaust survivor, blah, blah, blah. I see her 3 times a week. She pays me a crap ton of money. Why do I fucking hate every minute of this experience? I should want to help people. And when I started to kind of peel back the layers of what my operating system was all about, I was able to let myself off the hook. It's like, oh, that's not my path. That's not my operating. I'm trying to be a PC and I'm a Mac. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
Simple, right? You know, you don't like, you in your soul, you don't like what you don't like, and you like what you like.
Yeah.
And not apologizing for that is the first step, I think.
Yeah.
Unapologetically saying this is how I am in the world. It was a huge relief for me.
Yeah. Same here. It was a huge relief to, I think, the unapologetic part about it, that it's the first step, and yet it seems like the largest impossible step, and yet once you're able to make that, so many other things fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
As far as
talk about that a little bit more. I want to hear that story.
Well, similar to what you were saying, where you were at this point where you're like, I don't understand what I'm doing, like, how do I fit in? I was feeling similar to that with my work, with my coaching. It's like it was just going through the motions, and yet it wasn't giving me any fulfillment. And because I was doing a lot of other things that didn't fulfill my purpose or my operating system. And so once I was able to realize, like, oh, like, this is why I don't like XYZ, or this is why I love this, and then be able to make decisions about what I wanted to do, why I wanted to do it, and then move forward with that, made everything so much easier. It was like this huge weight, this burden was lifted from feeling like, well, I should love this because like, oh, I'm supposed to be helping people, I'm supposed to be doing whatever, but I don't, and that's okay.
Well, I think this notion as a movement professional, and I think maybe more in yoga land than in like fitness land, but I think this notion that you want to quote unquote help people, I think it's a load of horseshit.
Yeah.
I think you want to help specific people.
Yes.
And I think you want to help specific people in specific ways. And that's what I meant about sort of letting myself off the hook. Like, that's a really good point. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I just think that's a really good point. And one in which, something I'd like to get into more, and we can do it now, which is like, one of the struggles I've had is coaching in a variety of CrossFit gyms now, where like realizing that my why is so different than the why of these other coaches under the same roof, or furthermore, the person that maybe I'm working with, the owner, doesn't really have a why, or they haven't articulated their why for all of us coaches to be on the same page and then kind of follow in step with that.
So let me make a little distinction.
Yeah.
His why exists. His internal operating system exists already.
Right.
The problem is he doesn't know it.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the problem.
Right.
It's not.
Right.
This is not something we're layering on.
Interesting.
And this is completely fabricated. This is my own.
Mm-hmm.
And let me back up a little bit, and I will answer your question about the CrossFit gym because I think it's really important and super, super common. Your why, your operating system, your way of being, your sort of your essence in the world is with you, and it comes from probably your experiences, your DNA, your upbringing, all of that stuff, and we keep getting pulled toward it, whether we're aware of it or not. And so when you work for someone who isn't even evolved at that level,
yeah.
Right, there may be some dissonance if they don't have an awareness of it. But the other piece I want to make a distinction about is that your why is your why, and then your mission goes on top of it.
Interesting.
Right. So these are all my own kind of coaching fabrications because it helps distinguish between, and if you go back to that TED Talk, he talks about Apple Computer and they're this and they're that, and they happen to make computers. So this guy that you work for in the CrossFit gym, his why is, to, bring hotness to the world. I don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And so
doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He happens to own a CrossFit box, right? So, he could do that in any number of ways. But does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting, definitely that distinction. And I think, kind of getting back to sort of, I think with CrossFit, it's interesting because, I would make the argument then it's like the why really should be much greater than CrossFit, right? But I think
so here's the thing. It applies. So this is where we get a little sort of the language, what the words are in my mind don't matter as much as you understanding the essence. So my why, sort of generally, is to help people transcend the bullshit so they can do amazing things.
Yes.
Right.
But that's not applicable to everybody, right? And my why with my husband, in the same vein, putting language to it, might be to continue to learn and grow so that we can live this amazing transformative life, right? This is me riffing, creating language around it. Or, with my coaching clients, it's and this is very specific, it's to help intelligent, creative, talented fitness professionals and freelancers to see how talented, creative, and intelligent they actually are so that they can thrive in their business and their lives.
Interesting.
So the essence of it is mastery for me, learning, and not sort of accepting the ordinary.
Right.
And so, yes, it does. And I think the hard thing for people like us who are like super studious and detail oriented, and Alex, you can chime in here if you want, is that it's actually very vague.
Yeah.
Your operating system is broad, so that you can layer, as you were just saying, you can layer your business, your career, your hobbies on top of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your experience?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking too when Simon Sinek talks about Apple and reading Steve Jobs, the biography about him, and they didn't set out to make the iPhone. He wanted to, and he was always making things for the public that we didn't even know we needed. Right. And when you get it, then you're like, oh my gosh, this is what I need all the time. So yeah, the why is very vague, but then it's also, depending on the context, 100% applicable to what you're doing. And yeah, it's always there when you go back and you look at the themes that, reoccur, and it's there whether or not you're aware of it. Yeah. And I'd say too, the people we end up sometimes working for who, if we're like, oh, they don't have it figured out. Well, everyone's just doing their best. So give them that permission too.
Yeah, and my motivation, so I did this work on myself and sort of took the Simon Sinek kind of exercise as a jumping off point, right? That wasn't, I want to give him credit, but I also want to, it's beyond that. I've taken it beyond that. But, and then I wanted to share it with other people because I see so many people like you, Jared, who are like, you're losing your mind because you feel like, am I the only one here who sees that the emperor has no clothes? Am I the only one here that's like, something's not working here? And I think being good students, we try to operate under the umbrella of someone else's structure.
Yeah.
And that can be very frustrating. Or the structure of, I find with yoga, there's this sort of institutional structure of like, I need to be humble. I have to help people. I can't make a lot of money, and all this baloney, right? Yeah. Or that X quote unquote famous yoga teacher is way up here, like way up in the sky, and we're down on the ground, and we can't get to where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, if you want to.
Yep. Well, what would you suggest as far as, Jared's question about how to operate under the emperor with no clothes on?
Yeah, so that's it. Thank you for going back to that.
Or to make it more specific, like, how would you work, for someone that is both kind of pursuing an entrepreneurial path, but also working for someone else, right? How to kind of be true to that why and make peace with the dissonance that you may feel within a working population that you're not jiving with.
It's a big question because it depends on a lot of things. I think we're assuming that that person has put in the time to really just practice being a coach, or a teacher, or whatever it is that you're, consultant, personal trainer. But at the point where you feel like, okay, I've got this under my belt, I know the roadmap. I think the next evolution is to start to really think of how can I live by my why in this moment, in this class. Because you don't have to tell anybody.
Right, yeah.
Right? You don't have to tell anybody. You can look at the group and say, my why is to create an environment where learning is fun and people are empowered to make discoveries for themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody has to know that.
Yeah.
And so you can operate within the structure of an hour class in that way and make choices about the language that you use and the way you interact with people. It's with you. It's with you. You don't have to kind of filter it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to working for somebody, sometimes you got to move on.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe if it's something you really believe in or a place you really believe in, sit down and have a conversation. Right. I mean, I don't think it's as simple as one way. I think it depends on what stage of your career you're in. It depends on what stage of personal development you're in. I will say this as it applies. So, we all have a similar training background, and I hear a lot from new yoga tune-up teachers who are like, I went back to my class and I changed everything and then I lost all my classes.
Yes.
It's like there is this middle ground where you have so I found out my why, or I found this new way of teaching, using the yoga tune-up example. I need to be strategic about the way I start to implement this.
Yeah.
And I think that's another piece, is that, Alex didn't just find her why and then quit her job and change everything. There was an evolution there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And at some point in that evolution, she came to a crossroads and she went, okay, in order for me to keep growing in this direction, I need to make X choice. Mm-hmm. And when you take the heat off the other person or the institution, it actually makes it easier, because you're not blaming the other person. It has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with you being truthful about who you are and being in an environment and in a professional lane that allows you to express yourself professionally, if we're talking about professionally, as fully as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, when there's any type of conflict, or not necessarily conflict, but if there's something that's frustrating you, you have this decision to either change your approach to it or change a situation. Mm-hmm. And so figuring out how to make that happen, you can apply that for literally everything.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed. Was that a helpful answer?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting, particularly that idea of, though the why is with you. And so now you just have to be conscious about how you are going to allow it to best guide you, in that hour class or in that moment, and not be, I guess, too caught up in what you can't control, beyond, just your best intentions driven by the why.
Yeah, and I think, nothing that we do, whether it's setting a goal or, I'll use I'll use weightlifting as an example. You do all this stuff in Olympic weightlifting to train. You work the pieces, you train, you do pulls and you do power snatches and you do overhead squats. And at some point you put the whole thing together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can't think your way through the lift.
Right.
You have to just show up and do it. And so the work on your personal operating system, or the discovery work, I should say, it's not chatting in your ear the whole time.
Yeah.
It's the measuring stick. It's the barometer. You kind of go, something's not right with this situation. Is this in line with who I am?
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Alex can maybe comment on that too, like how it sort of lives in her.
Yeah, no, I'd say I was just thinking like measuring stick, and you said that because, and I think, Jared and I, we talked too about the power of reflection and being mindful, and it's not like every single thing you do all day long you're going to be like, oh my God, I can feel this pencil in my hand, and be like that tuned into everything. But every once in a while, if something's not gelling, or you're super excited, or whatever the highs and lows are, to be able to stop and be like, okay, what's going on here? And so uncovering that measuring stick of that's been in your back pocket all the time, and you just haven't pulled it out to use it. And at that point in that reflection, maybe it's in the car on the way home, or, in your journal later, or at the end of the month, whatever it is, that's where it comes out. And it's super powerful, because then you can reevaluate and be like, this is working awesome. I want to do it again in this way, or this is not working any longer. Can I change my perspective, or do I need to move on?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I like that, as a way to assess after the fact, as opposed to just becoming more over analytical in the moment.
Yeah, dude, sometimes you just gotta lift the fucking bar.
Yeah.
You just gotta gotta lift that shit off the ground and go, and live that and have that experience. And then maybe later you go, yeah, maybe I should have trained more.
Right.
The other piece that I will say is that it helps when people offer you classes or workshops, or when you're developing your own offerings, to start to really, who are the people I want to work with?
Yeah.
How do I want to work? There's a guy at the gym where I work who teaches the masters ladies. It's like the old lady class, and he loves it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to work with the old ladies.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I want to work with the athletes.
Right.
I want to talk about what's going on in their head.
Yeah.
I want to teach them how to breathe better. I want them to I want to help them deal with their minds. I want to talk to the person who wants to geek out on what's going on with their ankle.
Yeah.
Those are my people,
Yeah.
And that's that essence of my why, of that mastery, of that excellence, of transcending the bullshit mundane and really, really going for it.
Yeah.
And so professionally, it's really about as I said at the very beginning of the call, owning what you are and who you are and how you express what you do in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Unapologetically.
Mm-hmm. The hardest part.
Do you ever have conflicting whys?
No, because you're not a Mac and a PC at the same time.
Yeah. But what about
you can have conflicting missions?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. You can have conflicting goals.
Yeah.
Another way to kind of think of this, and this is hard because we live in such a what's your dream, what's your goal, what's your bucket list?
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of coaching with people, life coaching, personal coaching, and the first thing they would do, I don't know if either of you have ever done, and Alex has coached with me, but the first thing a lot of them do is like, write your goals down, write your dreams down.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
Yeah, and there was this thing underneath that it was like, something's missing. Something's missing, because I'm really good at saying, okay, I'm going to go after this, I'm going to go after this, I'm going to go after this. But there was the layer underneath.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think too, for me, understanding who my students and who my people were, because I had done, some other business coaching where they're like, define your audience. And I couldn't even answer that question for myself. Or even when someone would ask, well, tell me about your business. And I'm like, I teach yoga. I don't know.
Right.
And so having that answer and understanding about, the reason why I was doing things, all of those other answers became very clear. So I can still talk to the athletes, but then also the, older women in their home who just had hip surgery. Like those people are my people too, because what I'm trying to do is to teach people and empower people through understanding their bodies. So hopefully, maybe that makes more sense, Jared, too, is even another layer underneath that can help make the different audiences a little bit more harmonious, maybe.
Yeah, right.
And what's cool, Alex, is when you talk about it that way, when you're like, I'm super passionate about teaching people about having a really deep relationship with their bodies, or whatever it is that people go, oh, tell me more about that.
Yeah.
Right? When you say, Jared, I'm a yoga teacher, or I'm a sports psychology guy, they're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right? When you say, I teach really high performers how to overcome mental blocks and whatever it is.
Yeah.
People go, oh, well, I'm a high performer. I work in business. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I worked,
Right.
I spoke with a friend who's in marketing, and the elevator pitch, it was the same thing. He was like, well, tell me, what you do. And it's not just like, oh, I'm a yoga teacher. It's I help people improve their mobility and enhance their performance through understanding anatomy, through, personal classes, online coaching, online things, that other stuff. But yeah, you pique your interest with the why for sure. Because the labels too, I'm a CrossFit coach, I'm a this, I'm a that. People already have their own assumptions about it that might not have anything to do with what you're actually doing on a daily basis.
At the end of the day, all of this is just about you getting really clear about how you offer yourself to the world, whether it's professionally, personally, spiritually, emotionally. It's just a way.
How would you, what's your elevator pitch right now? Someone's like, hey,
I don't believe in elevator pitches.
But if somebody asks you what it is that you do,
I teach people to transcend their bullshit.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right? Or it depends, Alex. It depends. If it's a grandma who's like, oh, what do you do? I might say I teach really cool people how to do really cool things with their life.
Context is so critical.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, I'm a cool person.
I'm a cool person.
Yeah.
I teach people who are creative, intelligent, and talented to get unstuck so that they can live fulfilled and amazing lives. I mean, really, that's where your sensitivity as a human comes in, to understand your audience.
Yeah.
What it is to me is a feeling.
Yeah.
And an acceptance of the fact that I have an operating system. There are things that light me up and move me forward. There are ways of being in the world that light me up and move me forward. And there are ways of being in the world that make me want to stab myself in the eye.
As we all have. I remember when we started working together, like you're saying, it's a feeling. And it was totally a feeling for me as well. Because I had this very vivid, I wrote it down in my journal. I felt like I was on the life raft with the tiger in the life of Pi. And so there was this, I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know how long we were going to be out there. And then this like really buzz level of anxiety of like, oh my God, this tiger is going to eat me. Maybe, I don't know. And once we went,
Wait, am I the tiger in that?
No, you're not the tiger. A lot of people and things were the tiger. It's symbolic. And then when we worked together and, you know, started asking questions and I started to uncover the patterns for myself and reflect and look back, I got out of the lifeboat, thank God. But just this sense of grounded calm. And from there, I could have the super excitement of everything that, you know, I'm doing now and whatever. But there wasn't that feeling of like unsure, I guess. You know, like I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's happening tomorrow at all, or even 5 years from now. Like, who knows what I want to be doing in 5 years?
Yeah.
But I know that as long as I'm doing the things that I love to do and helping people, you know, teaching others anatomy so that they can understand about their bodies even more than they know about their cars, that will unfold in its own way. And I'm not worried about that anymore because I'm just focused on each task as it comes.
So I'm going to coach you a little bit here because your why is not teaching people about anatomy. Your why is about being an educator.
Yeah,
it just happens to be that you teach anatomy.
Yes. Oh, no, I teach many other things too. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And we talked very deeply about that. Coaching, personal coaching, it gets a bad rap and there's a lot of misunderstanding. I'm not helping anyone do anything. Coaching is coaching. Right? Rex Ryan doesn't get on the field with his players.
Right.
He stands on the sideline and says a little to the right, a little to the left.
Right.
But at the end of the day, the intelligence and the effort and the discovery is on the part of the coachee. So I don't know why Rex Ryan was the only NFL coach I could come up with, but
I didn't even know, but I figured.
I wasn't sure either, but you know,
but you're
the
so
context
right.
was there.
As a coach, at the end of the day, it's like the athlete, the individual, they're the one who are going to pick up the bar. I can tell you everything you want, but you have to do the work.
Right, and so it's an interesting dance because my job as a fitness coach, as a trainer of other fitness coaches and teachers, is to push you to your edge, but to not do the work for you, to not be so overbearing that you escape or freeze or flee. But also to pull back when it's time to pull back, but to keep pushing through that breakthrough. And the breakthrough is yours. The breakthrough happens from the work you do. I'm nobody's guru. I'm nobody's guru as a movement teacher. I'm nobody's guru as a personal coach. You do the work, and I just paddle the boat.
Hell yeah, consistent paddling.
Yeah.
Keep it steady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the feeling for me, is, you know, what you mentioned about Steve Jobs. Like, I'm so passionate about helping, providing that thing for people that they didn't know they needed or wanted. And then sharing that aha moment where it's like, yeah, this is awesome, right? You know? But in the beginning, they had no awareness that that's really what they were walking in for. But that can be really hard, right? Because people, you know, when you're selling somebody on something, you know, they have preconceptions about what they're wanting to get out of it, and so I guess needing to build enough of the trust or the rapport to then pave the way for that experience that is going to be both valuable and fulfilling for them and myself.
I think we don't, as a fitness community, as a movement education community, I don't think we respect reps enough. And what I mean by that is that it takes a lot of experience and a lot of time to learn how to do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's artistry in teaching. I really believe in good teaching. I
Yeah.
believe in being a good teacher and not just training yourself in, in anatomy and energy systems and barbell movements, but really the art of pedagogy. How do we teach people? How do we relate to people? And how do we meet people where they are? Context is a huge part of it. Giving people, and I'll go back to what I was saying about, like wholesale changes in the way you teach. You got to meet people where they are and then give them snacks.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give them a whole meal.
Yeah. Snacks.
And there's some real skill and artistry to that.
Yeah.
And ninja stuff. And that just takes time. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been teaching for 17 years. And I would say in the last 2-3 years, that's the piece that's really clicked into place. Is really understanding how to take what I know and give it to people in a way that is digestible and is not threatening. And also we give them some candy sometimes too,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
give
right.
people their vegetables and give them a little candy. The hardest part is when you're excited about what you're holding in yourself and you want to just,
Totally. Yeah. And kind of what you have sort of come to feel like is candy, is oftentimes not what they do, and not passing judgment on that, but respecting your different opinions about what is candy, and then just kind of sharing that back and forth, for them to at least to enjoy the process.
Right. Exactly. You don't want to alienate them.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place to unleash, your anatomy fire hose on somebody. And there's a time and a place to say, that's your leg.
Yeah. Right.
And I know that's your leg because I studied anatomy. Right?
Yeah.
I looked under the hood.
Exactly.
The trail guide taught me that one.
Yeah.
I can palpate the leg.
I read it on the internet, and now it's true.
And now it's true, exactly. But Jared, I think you're really right. I think that sometimes, because as professionals we're metabolizing information at such a rapid rate, we forget that our students, our members, our clients maybe need some remediation, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way at all.
Yeah.
Need the ABCs.
Right.
They need to go to French level 1 before we go to conversational French.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're conversational French, we need to get them up to speed first.
Yeah, and I think especially in the CrossFit space, to do that effectively, like you said, the kind of ninja skills of, hey, I don't mean to alienate you or make you feel bad about not getting to do this cool thing right now, that is all the buzz, or that, now with like Instagram, right? Like there's all the particular desire to live that thing that you're seeing others do. And as a coach, how do you navigate that where it's like, I know best, and I'm respecting your wishes, but at the same time, like, you've come to me to help you, and I need you to sort of trust and understand that you're not ready to speak conversational French. Like we got to layer, and like as old as coaching in any discipline, right? We have to learn the scales, and we have to do some of this stuff that is not as fancy or fun or has the performance value, and sort of balance that in a way that communicates like, hey, I have your best interest at heart, but then doesn't make them go, also maybe train with someone else on the side who like lets them get away with stuff like the fun ant or something.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I'm asking for a friend.
But I do think, personal in the sense that I feel like I've had this discussion before, maybe with other gym owners or other professionals where, they have a certain belief about how it's going to sell. And I've actually found, I really do believe that people do want to know more, and I think, like, as you said, there's maybe not enough respect of the reps. I think there's not enough respect of like the intelligence of everyone coming in, that like we too often maybe want to downplay it too much or assume that, they don't really care about the details. When I think sometimes that can be so exciting, and then, this kind of that empowering thing. But especially in the beginning, that can be difficult to deliver or sell someone on. So,
I mean, I think it's always all about context.
Yeah.
I think it's always all about context. It's all about what you're in service of. I had a client who I worked with for about 6 months, and she came to me. She'd been hit by a car and was rehabbing a fibula injury that had caused all sorts of knee stuff and whatever. But she was good. She was in it was a year. Come to find out that really what I was doing was giving her guts back. Like, that's what the training ended up being. Was about giving her guts back. So, right. And then ultimately became about training for her to go on a 10-day, 7-day trail, like a what's her name, Cheryl Strayed's type backpacking trip on her own. Awesome. And so at each stage of that work, what was I in service of? When it got to the point where she was getting ready to go to backpack, and I wasn't seeing her that often, I was seeing her like maybe once, twice a week, the training became about, can she get up and down off the ground with her backpack? If she falls down, can she stand up with her 50-pound backpack? Can she step over the rocks with her backpack? I really didn't give a crap about her squat form and about, at that point, I was like, in service of. It's a slightly oblique to the question, but it's like, when you're working in a CrossFit gym, what are you in service of? If the guy is all about abs, like if the owner is like, I want abs and guns, and that's all I care about, and that's what my programming is, then you have to work under that umbrella.
Right.
So it's like, how can I be in service of, or if a client comes to you and is like, I'm getting married.
Yeah.
Then you're in service of that goal. I think what happens, what I'm starting to hear from you, reading between the lines, putting my coaching hat on, is that sometimes you get to the end of that road and it's time to find new playmates. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to say, well, you have two choices. One, shut your mouth and do your work and take your paycheck, which has a limited amount of shelf life.
Right.
Or move on.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why we want to teach workshops and do podcasts and write books and do blogs. And that's because it stops being interesting to teach at the same level over and over for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's true across the board, because I know I have another form of coach. I have a good friend who's a teacher in high school, and she's like, I've been in the classroom for 5 years and I want to do what's next.
Yeah.
So I think, for all of us who are tuned in and always wanting better for ourselves and for those who we're able to come into contact with, that there's a lot of change. The only constant in life is change, and being brave enough to take that step into what perhaps is the unknown. Just go for it.
100%. I mean, it took me 14, 15 years before I was brave enough to do it, because I didn't think I knew enough. I didn't think I had enough, whatever. It took someone else saying, get your ass out there. And I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But you know what, Alex? The other thing is, there are people that are happy to be high school teachers for us.
Oh yeah.
Right. So what we have to and maybe this will help you, Jared, is that, like, there are some people for whom abs and guns are like it.
Yeah.
I'm good. This is all I need. And we have to take the judgment away. I think we get, get a little bit like, but how, there's more.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think that's sometimes a problem with the CrossFit gym, is that like they're kind of trading in the individual for this, to just be a part of this CrossFit thing for, and not really, I don't think it's fair for someone that does say, hey, I got this wedding coming up, or, I'm all about abs and guns, and you're like, yeah, just clean and do more pull-ups. It's like, because that's the CrossFit way. You're totally not honoring or being in service of them. And I think that's, maybe what becomes confusing sometimes about titles, right? Is like, what does that really mean, a CrossFit coach, or what does that mean, a yoga teacher, and how, and when someone says, hey, I think you could really use CrossFit, like, what are they even, what are they recommending to that person? And for me, I guess the definition that I've always sort of worked under and become excited about is how, CrossFit was just a place where we could connect the dots. It was like it was the closest place I found that under the same roof we could do so many different things that had so many similarities, and then we could empower ourselves with this greater amount of transferability and adaptability for whatever the demand was. But a lot of people, they don't really see it that way, right? To them, it's about how can we do wall balls or double unders faster, and so I guess, as you're saying, like, well, who is it, and what are they trying to accomplish, and if wall balls and double unders faster is their thing, and then it's about helping them do that and understand the expectations that come with that, so that they're not, so that they are fulfilled with that specific agenda.
Yeah, I mean, and that sounds sort of sad. But that's where you as a professional have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to do that.
Right.
If you can live with that, and it helps you support your family or get you through school, and that's the best way to do it, fine. But if it's really dissonant for you, then don't do it.
Right, totally.
Don't do shit you don't want to. I mean, like, really, at the end of the day, don't do shit you want to do.
Yeah.
If it makes you. I was just with my 20-month-old niece, and little kids don't want to do something. They kick their feet and hold on to things, and like, no. I think as adults we have those reactions to things, and we're adult enough to kind of rationalize our way out of them. But I think that for a lot of us, there are those primal instincts that are like, this is awful.
Definitely. Yeah.
If only that was acceptable, to kick your feet and just dig your heels in.
Maybe we should start some, some primal movement kind of thing that's all about that.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. Something that I've been thinking of as we've been chatting, because you have such great experience in the yoga space, in training, and then you've now stepped into being an athlete and competitor yourself.
Mm-hmm.
How did you pick a coach to coach you through that with all that you know?
I'm super lucky because I've been CrossFitting since 2009. I've been CrossFitting since 2009. CrossFit has been on my radar since about 2005. Keith Wittenstein, who is like an OG CrossFitter and a yoga tune-up teacher, we were yoga teachers together in New York, and he started sending out emails about this CrossFit thing in like 2005, and I was very yogi at that point, and I would see the stuff and like talk about your inner dissonance. I was like, oh my God, that looks like so much fun. And then I was like, no, I can't do that. I'm a yogi. So fast forward to 2009, late 2008, there was sort of a confluence of things. Late 2008, Jared, by the way, is when I did my 10-day silent Vipassana retreat over New Year's into 2009. And 6 weeks after that, I was in the CrossFit gym.
Wow.
And I went to a free intro at CrossFit NYC. And I left and I was like, oh my God, when can I go back and do that again? I mean, it was like life-changing for me. And Keith was kind of teaching his own thing at the time, but I reached out to him and I'm like, how do I do this? How do I pursue this? I was already aware of the fact that there were bad coaches and good coaches and that he was one of the good ones.
Yeah.
He hadn't yet opened his gym. And we chatted and he's like, don't worry about it. Just focus on getting stronger. And, I did some privates with him. And then he opened Virtuosity, CrossFit Virtuosity in New York with Sam Orm, who's his business partner. And I started there as a member. And then very quickly it was like, hey, you know how to teach stuff. Want to be a CrossFit coach? And Keith was very hands-on. Very much a teacher's teacher, very detail-oriented, and he trained all of us. He trained us in a very specific way, and he trained us with the idea of being excellent.
Yeah.
And so that, as things went on, and Keith retired, and the gym moved, and new coaches came on, each of us started to explore this idea of excellence and mastery in our own way. And two of our coaches became elite level Olympic weightlifting coaches. And so to answer your question, Alex, I didn't have to choose. I just said, hey guys, want to coach me? And they said, yeah, sure. And that was that. And so my coaches, Joey Swidler and Juan Blanco, who goes by Blanco, are the head coaches of the Brooklyn Barbell Club. They are both on CrossFit weightlifting staff, and they just came back from University Nationals, where one of our athletes was in the A session and got a 20 or 30 kilogram PR from his performance last year.
Wow!
So these guys are really like up and comers in the Olympic weightlifting space, and they just happen to be my peers. So that,
that doesn't help me at all, but that is so awesome.
So what advice would you give to others in terms of maybe an operating system or a framework for selecting a good coach in any discipline, right? What are some things that come to mind that you think one should look for or be aware of in making that decision?
People used to ask me that all the time when I was a yoga teacher, and the answer was always like, who do you want to be in the room with? Who do you like? Who speaks? And I mean that not in a sort of collegial way, but in like whose language makes sense to you? Who, when you're in the room with them, I want to make sure I say this in an appropriate way, makes your body do things that it hasn't done before.
Yeah. That's a good point. Right.
So whose coaching speaks to you as a mover, and that can't be determined by anything other than your experience with them.
Right.
I mean, certainly you can look at people's backgrounds, and it always sort of creeps me out when people are like, "Oh, I came to your class or this because I read your bio," and I'm like, "You don't know me at all."
Yeah.
Get in the room with me.
Yeah.
Ask friends, look at people's, CVs, of course, but I really think it comes down to who speaks to you somatically.
Yeah.
And from a personal coaching, like if you were going to do some life coaching with me, if the language makes sense, if the ideas make sense, if there's a curiosity there,
right.
If you feel like their knowledge is a little scary, like they know something that you don't know and you want it.
No, that's I like that. Their knowledge is a little scary.
They know too much. Well, we are. I was just saying. Do you have another question, Jared, or can we go on to our?
Yeah, I was gonna say let's
Rapid
rapid fire it up. Give her a little like balls to juggle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't send these questions to you either. So, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh my God. Help you. Jesus Christ. What advice would I give to my 20-year-old self?
You're just walking down the street and you see 20-year-old Elizabeth.
No. I want to be. What do you have to be afraid of? Go for it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
What do you have to be afraid of? What is your biggest coaching/teaching pet peeve?
A couple things. Workouts written on the board in detail. It's on Wodify. It's on your iPhone. What's the workout?
Yeah.
How many reps? What are we doing again? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I presume that if you're in here, you can read what's written on the board.
Yeah,
I'm
is
sorry
crazy.
if I sound like an asshole, but fucking it,
Especially when it's confusing too when they're all like hovering around the whiteboard before the class even starts. Like they're like studying it intensely, and then after you've explained it, they're still unsure. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Tell us what to do. We're just minions.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I guess like to piggyback on that, what I just thought of another one related to that is like right as I'm about to turn the clock on, they gotta go. Someone's gotta go to the bathroom.
Somebody's gotta go eat. Exactly.
Guys, we only have so much time.
Yeah, let's go. Sorry.
You already asked all these questions. Now we only have time to do the workout. Like,
I have to admit, I have started the clock with people in the bathroom.
yeah, no, and that's why I started doing the whole like, look, like it's 1:35 right now. We're gonna start at 1:45. Like, so, like if you happen to have to go at 1:44, like don't be mad at me. Like, all right. Following that up, what's a favorite coaching memory? Anything that comes to mind?
Being coached or giving coaching?
Either or.
I love the moments that are probably mundane to people from the outside. I have a client who I worked with very early on in my CrossFit career, who had some physical trauma in her life and was just trying to be more confident. It wasn't just about fitness. It was about sort of reclaiming some of herself. And the first time she deadlifted 200 pounds. And this was not a woman who was like a beast by any means, but she joined the 200-pound club, as you know, all girls know that one.
Yeah.
And I think very shortly after that got her first pull-up. And that moment of empowerment is super, super emotional for me. I mean, I will cry. I cry when that stuff happens.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I have a client right now who has MS. She's a public school teacher in New York City, and she works really, really hard. And when she first came to me, she said, "I just want to walk on the beach with my daughter on vacation. I want to walk into town and get an ice cream cone." And she sent me an email from vacation, and she said, "I walked to town, and I was fine."
Yeah.
And so those are the personal ones. And then there's exciting ones, like seeing CrossFit Virtuosity make it to the games. That was like a super exciting moment. I wasn't a coach, but that was, in my community. And then there are those moments when people out of the blue will come up and say, "You said this, and this to me 5 years ago, and it made a huge impact on my life." And you go, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Awesome.
Those are, among many.
What worries you the most as a coach?
Can you be more specific?
Is there anything, prior to going in to teach a class or a workshop, that that you're worried about in terms of what you hope to deliver, or
I am a terrible time manager. I tend to overteach because
Yeah.
I get so excited. I just want to teach.
right.
Teach, and I want to teach in all the nooks and crannies. I want to teach every little bit, and so time management is my big one.
Yeah, me too.
So I will say when I have a syllabus, like if I'm teaching a yoga tune-up training, I'm better. But it's not. I am not pithy.
Okay, 2 more. What element, characteristic, or personality trait do you bring to coaching that people would least expect or maybe see as odd?
I should ask you guys that. You've been in class with me. That people would see as odd. Well, sometimes I'll boogie down if the music is good.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say, do you ever burst out into song?
It's not necessarily song, but definitely like if somebody else is coaching and there's a good song, I might groove my way through class. Yeah. I think also people see girl and they think soft and friendly.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
And then I open my mouth and they're like, whoa.
Badass.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Totally. All right. Lastly, what does it mean to you to practice what you preach?
What does it mean to me? I think we're all struggling. I mean, I think that struggle is like, and not struggle in some sort of weird, deep way, but like things come up, or we want to eat an ice cream cone, or we're tired and we don't want to train, or it's like Monday and we don't want to go to work, and so I think owning that and being truthful about that and not hiding it from people and being really honest about your struggles and about being human. I think that every once in a while, and you guys may have had this experience. I was in Las Vegas with my husband, and he was on a business trip, and we were out to dinner with a bunch of people he worked with, and I was eating apple pie. This is like last week, and his boss, who knows that I'm an athlete,
right.
he was like, my image of you is shattered.
Yeah.
Really
God
good.
forbid you eat apple pie.
Really good.
Yeah.
So I think the other side of that is being in integrity and kind of going, I want to eat apple pie, but right now I'm in training and I need to show up and I need to get sleep and I need to practice what I preach as much as I can.
Right.
Be in integrity in my practices. I don't want to teach something that I don't do myself.
Totally.
Or at least I haven't experienced, like I think there's a lot of talk about meditation and mindfulness and recovery, and like if you're not doing it, if you're stressed out and tired and wired and you got to be in integrity.
Right.
Yeah. So
100%.
Very well said.
I'm gonna go eat some apple pie now.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah, well, it is more dinner dessert time for you, so
every time as dessert.
Totally. Yeah.
East Coast.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with us. This has been so awesome. I think I'll speak for both of us.
Yeah, fantastic.
So thank you for sharing yourself and your awesome stories. And where can people find more about you and your teaching and all the cool stuff you do? So
hopefully by the time this goes up on iTunes, my website will be back up and operational. My website is strongandbendy.com. Strong and Bendy. And I'm Strong and Bendy on all of the various social media, Instagram. I have a Facebook page. I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram. That's all I can sort of handle, but I do have Twitter. I have that Snapchat thing on my phone, but
Don't worry about it.
Don't
worry about it.
I just want to say though, before we get off, like, I think that I want to make sure that who I am in this world is clear, because we talked all the way from coaching to teaching teachers to CrossFit coaching, and wrap it up and just say my why in this world, in the world of fitness and health, is to transcend the bullshit and do amazing things. And that goes for whether I'm teaching a CrossFit gym or teaching mobility or coaching fitness professionals. And all of that is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So the delivery method, I have a lot of different vehicles to deliver that. So thank you for letting me kind of riff on all of them.
Yeah, it was awesome. There was many like Elizabeth original vernacular that I think will be fun to go back to and kind of steal for my own purposes.
Okay, please let me know. Please let me know if there's Elizabethisms out there in the world.
Yeah, no, they definitely some good sound bites. I always like hearing new and more succinct ways of saying things. You know, there's so much of the information, right, is kind of saying the same stuff, but when we can get to it a little bit more direct and emotionally relevant, it's awesome, and that's why it sticks.
I love it. Good. All right. Well, you guys are awesome, and I'm like 100% in support of what you do here and just like in your life. I know how hard being a fitness pro is, so keep kicking ass.
Thank you.
Thank
You're welcome. All right.
Later.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Behind the Podium, Unveiling the Coach. If you have enjoyed what you listened to, head over to iTunes and leave us a review. More information on each episode and the podcast in general can be found at behindthepodiumpodcast.com. We'll catch you next time.